All right, we're back for one last two-player podcast on Game of Thrones Season 7. I'm Erik Kane.
I'm Paul Tassi.
It's really kind of sad that the season is over already.
Very fast.
Very fast. I mean, I had a lot of problems with this season of Game of Thrones. I know you did. I know a lot of people did. But I still can't really bear the thought of waiting, maybe a year and a half at this point?
Yeah, I keep hearing like 2019, which is unfortunate, to say the least.
Oh, my God. It's so bad. It's really depressing.
Yeah.
Especially because, we ended with Bran and Sam talking about who Jon really is while Jon is getting it on with his aunt. And they don't, but then, he doesn't find out. So we have to wait that, another 18 months or whatever it is going to, for
his
Jon
horrified reaction.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I would just like to say that I called like 6 weeks ago that the closing scene of this season would be the wall falling.
Yeah, it's a good scene for.
I didn't predict an ice dragon doing it, but
is it an ice dragon? Though?
I don't know. It's like a blue fire. I think it's still fire because it's technically like melting the ice, sort of. Like just kind of like blowing through it. I don't know, but
yeah, it's magic. It doesn't matter. It's just magic
blue fire.
It was quite the spectacle. I mean, I got to give them props for just a very cool end scene.
Yeah, that was great. I saw a video of it today with like a DMX song, like X Gonna Give It To You, played over. It was amazing.
That is awesome. I'm gonna have to look that up after this.
Do you think Tormund and Beric survived? I thought that was kind of unclear.
So my gut tells me they did because they didn't show them dying.
My thought was I wondered if they were going to come back as whites, like show up later as like the Army of the Dead, and there's like zombie Tormund there, which would be kind of awesome. But
yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I could see that. It feels kind of weird that they would survive that battle with the undead, last week, just to die with the wall coming down this week.
No one really dies off screen in Game of Thrones for the most part, so I kind of doubt it. Well, okay, but that was like split second cut off screen. That wasn't like.
Yeah, but I wanted to see him die.
Yeah, that was weird how they pulled back on that because that could have gone either way.
Yeah,
but this one, I assume they're alive and they're going to run back and tell the tale. But I could also see them showing up as whites, which would be kind of cool. But
yeah, well, Bran knows what happened because he sent his ravens and watched it all. Yeah. So no one really needs to tell anybody what happened.
Bran knows everything. The thing that Sam told him that he didn't know.
Yeah, that Gilly actually found out but didn't get any credit for.
Yeah, all right. I feel like we're skipping way ahead. Okay, so what did you think? What did you think of the finale overall?
Overall, I thought it was definitely a big step up from where we had been for the last few episodes. I thought that it was great to resolve the Winterfell storyline. I still hate everything that happened in Winterfell. It doesn't make it better for me that they were playing him because I just thought the whole thing was so stupid. They had no reason to trick him that way because they could have just, done everything even without all of that. It just was totally.
I got a rant about that because that was that was some Walking Dead level kind of trickery because they're like, oh, they were playing the game of faces and like Arya was signaling to Sansa in that scene last week that she wasn't serious and like blah blah blah. But clearly there was some conversation had between them that like discussed what was going on and how they were going to set up Littlefinger that we just didn't see. Like I can't imagine that entire plan was communicated like entirely through coded messages and winks and nods.
Well, of course. Why wouldn't they?
Well, yeah, they were just purposefully holding back information from us, the audience, to make it look like they were going to betray each other when clearly they had been plotting to betray Littlefinger. And that was like the lamest way for Littlefinger to die.
Oh, I know. And when he's crying and stuff, oh, come on.
I guess his reaction was appropriate, but he was just, he should be so much smarter to get caught in his own trap like this. And like this entire concept has never made sense from the start because as soon as he sold Sansa to the Boltons, like knowing full well what would happen, clearly she should have just killed him when he came back. Like that should not have even been a debate. Like we didn't need all this other stuff or even like Bran telling him what happened with their father. Like there was so much stuff already as evidence against him that I don't even know why he wasn't immediately jailed or executed before this.
The only thing I could say is that she should have kept him alive until after the Knights of the Vale helped out Jon. And then, like, as soon as he was all smug and like, hey, look, I won, she could be like, nope, here's what you've done. You know, you're accused of all this. And, you know, long before Arya even got there, just take him out. Yeah, it's of course, even before that, selling her to the Boltons made no sense. How does that help him with the Game of Thrones?
I don't know. He's making those moves that work against him, and then I guess they all just worked against him, and now he's dead. So
yep.
That's how that got resolved.
Yeah, so disappointing. The other big sort of reveal of the night was the Rhaegar Lyanna, the wedding that Bran went and saw. I'm really not happy with how Rhaegar looked. Did this bother you? He looked just like
too much like Viserys. I thought he was going to have like really long hair and be like some like Fabio looking, you know, model type dude. And he looked he's eerily similar to Viserys down to the exact same hairstyle, to the point where like if you weren't like a huge fan and like we're just casually watching that, I would not have blamed you if you're like, oh, it's that dude from season 1.
Totally. Exactly. So, I mean, the haircut, even like the nose, like did they get the same actor? It was very jarring. It made me want to pour a bucket of molten gold on his head. Like that was my reaction. And it should be like, whoa, there's Rhaegar, the warrior poet who's like, you know, this, you know, you should have had a different instinctive reaction to that scene than what we had, and so that really bugged me. Also,
it didn't bug me too much, but I would say literally they just should have changed his hair. That would have gone a long way.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
But other than that, I didn't mind that whole kind of sequence. I actually kind of like how they interwove like the reveal with them hooking up, because that was kind of like sad / hilarious.
Yeah. That's pretty great.
I love how everyone's just essentially rooting for incest now. When the show started, it was like the worst thing ever. Now it's like, yeah.
I am not rooting for it. I am the one person who still thinks
it's
well, I mean, I don't know how Jon Snow's going to react. I feel like he's going to be like, wait a minute. All right,
here's what's going to happen. They're going to find out. He's going to get weirded out and like break things off, but she's going to be pregnant. And then they're going to be like, okay, well, I don't know. We'll make it work.
Yeah,
for our incest baby to come.
Speaking of pregnant, like I did like that scene. It was kind of funny even when they're talking at the dragon pit and she's like, I can't have babies. And he's like, who told you that? And she says, the witch who killed my husband. And he's like, you ever think that might not be the most reliable source of information?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I mean, granted, he doesn't know about like the mutant lizard baby she had, but
True. Maybe they'll have another mutant lizard baby.
That'd be cool. Just half dragon, half human.
Yeah,
rolling around. Yeah,
that'd be cool. Like straight out of like Dragonlance or something. Those lizard people.
Speaking of pregnant, do you think Cersei's pregnant? Like for real? I can't figure it out. I can't tell because she used it and she's manipulating both Jaime and Tyrion with that kind of. So I don't know if that's for real or not. And then the prophecy says she just straight up can't have another kid. Either she's going to die or the kid will die or something. So I wonder if she's faking it just to manipulate people.
I mean, it could go either way. I honestly don't know. I mean, I think it's perfectly likely that she is pregnant. It just doesn't. She just can't come to term. But if she is, I mean, if she's using it to manipulate, it hasn't worked all that well with Jaime because he's gone.
Okay,
which I liked.
As much as I did like most of this, I didn't really. So the Tyrion and Cersei scene was amazing. That was one of the best Tyrion scenes in like a couple years at this point.
Yeah. It was great.
That was great. The scene with Jaime where she's like gone from like being in love with him and we're gonna rule together as brother and sister queen and no one can tell. And then he's like, you just are totally gonna forgo this alliance, so I'm just gonna go ahead and keep my word. And she's like, you will be executed. And he's like, whoa. Yeah. That's another like moving way too fast moment where I'm like, I don't think that was justified. And then she does kind of give the order to have him killed, and then the mountain just stands there and is like, eh. And then he leaves. Like, I don't know. That was kind of weird. I didn't know why he was just able to walk away. I thought he was going to get a giant sword in his back.
I was a little nervous right there.
I was too.
He doesn't have as thick of plot armor as other characters. Like, he could be killed right there as like a big shocking moment end of the season, you know? So I was glad that he wasn't, though. I mean, people are like talking about how there needs to be more like big character deaths. but I'm not sure there needs to be more big character deaths. I mean, it's honestly not like big character deaths make the show. What they did early on in the show is they propelled the plot forward. But right now we're at the end of the story. Like, the big character deaths are not going to do what they did for us early on.
I still think, I mean, I think this was setting up Jamie killing Cersei eventually, because she's just so far out there and just doing stuff that's just total nonsense. Like, he's going to have to put her down at some point, even if she's pregnant, even if she's, they're in love or whatever, because she's just that crazy.
Well, yeah.
So I was worried for about 45 seconds there that he was just going to get killed right there. But that would have been just, I don't know. That would have been almost like Arya Sansa level bad if,
Not quite, but almost,
other,
yeah. Yeah, it would have been, yeah. Here's another thing. Speaking of the mountain, like, I get that they're kind of setting up that fight between Sandor and Gregor a little bit more, but boy, it seemed like right there at that dragon pit would have been a good time for them to throw down. Like, it would have just was kind of...
Yeah, it was kind of an awkward moment, but I'm glad kind of no fighting broke out at the dragon pit. I thought that was like kind of a good non-fighting scene, because like there you're almost expecting an ambush because of like how many times the show has pulled that before, and I'm kind of glad nothing happened in that sense. Because, that could have been a time where like, oh, it's a big battle and Jorah dies and like, the mountain dies and all, we kill off all these people in some giant melee. But I don't know. I think it was actually kind of good the way they planned that out. And you know what? I actually really liked the presentation of the White. And as bad as that plot line was this whole season, I actually thought it was pretty effective, and like it would kind of scare you straight, like with the way they cut it in half and it was still moving, and cut its arm off and it was still moving. Like, that was a very effective demonstration.
No, totally. I thought it was great.
Like
that. It was scary. It was, Cersei had a real sort of shocked look on her face. You could definitely see she was legitimately afraid. I do wonder if they didn't believe in the Whites to begin with, how her and Euron had that plan going.
I imagine she didn't think they were like lying, because like what would be the point of that? Like, they were winning the war. Why call for a truce anyway? Yeah, she's the freaking zombie mountain next to her. I mean, it's not exactly stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But,
one thing I did think was kind of odd about that whole dragon pit deal was that, that Cersei and them went all the way back to the Red Keep and then had to walk all the way back to the dragon pit. It was kind of funny when they showed back up. I was like, okay, did you have to go all that way? I mean, couldn't you just have talked about it there? And like,
it's not an episode without teleportation and
like, that's a long walk.
I just think they wanted the scene in her chambers with Tyrion, which is why they did that. But because it would have been weirder if it was just like some cave off to the side or whatever.
I would have liked a cave.
Yeah.
A little cave with some wine. They needed the wine. So, yeah.
I love Tyrion just grabbing a drink after he thought the mountain was just going to cut him. He's like, yep.
And then he poured her one.
That was very good.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of going back to some of their earlier scenes, like in season 1 and 2, and I really liked that. That was one of the best parts of the entire episode. You know what? Also, going back to the end scene with the dragon. Before I forget this, someone brought this up, and I agree with them. It would have been kind of cool if that was the first time we saw the undead dragon. Instead of seeing like the dragon at the end of the previous episode, if suddenly like, wait, what's that? And then boom, that dragon's coming towards the wall. Like, that would have been a pretty cool reveal.
I agree. I think that would have been better. I didn't really consider that, but I think that would have been a better way to reveal it. Rather than the whole, where'd they get the chains and scuba diving gear and...
Yeah, totally. But they wanted to do that eye. They wanted that blue eye.
They could have done it here still. Like, I mean,
they could have,
had him riding the dragon and then show the blue eye and the blue fire. And I think that still would have been as effective.
No, yeah, I agree. And it would have been really surprising, like, to have that happen right at the end there. And I don't know. People would have been, theorizing about it all week, of course. But
have you experienced this too, where it's almost kind of sad to be a huge fan now, where you've researched all these theories and like things to the point where there was all these theoretical mind-blowing things that happened in this episode, but I think me and you probably both saw almost all of them coming for the most part. And people like us, where like the Jon Targaryen stuff has been figured out for ages. Like everyone thought he was going to knock down the wall with the dragon. Like you can kind of understand that Cersei is going to clearly betray everyone.
Well, that was just obvious. Yeah. That's not even a theory.
Yeah,
That's just
character
analysis.
Cersei making the wrong decision always. I don't know. It makes me like a tiny bit sad. I can't force myself to like ignore all these other.
Well, yeah, because part of it is what you're doing. You know, you're writing about this stuff. You know, I'm writing about this stuff. We're doing so much of that, and we're so, you know, living in that world that it's impossible to avoid those things. You know, I mean, when it comes to like the Jon stuff, I mean, that's been. God, I mean, I think the first time I heard the R+L, you know, that was when I first started reading the books in like 2001. So those theories have been going on for the last, you know, almost 2 decades.
Hard to avoid those
yeah,
theories after 15 years.
It's, you know, if Martin had finished the books more quickly, it would have been a lot less likely for a lot of these things to become such widespread, well-known theories.
Speaking of the books, I got to get your take on the whole Aegon thing.
Aegon
shit.
John. You're mixing up John with Aegon.
Did you see my Twitter joke where I said it's Aegon with a G or with a J?
Yeah.
Aegon. Anyway, so I cannot figure out like how this translates into the book. Like if there are 2 Aegon Targaryens, like there's the secret one in Dorne doing all that stuff, but then Jon is also secret Aegon Targaryen. I don't know. There's like so many layers to this. I can't really comprehend.
Well, okay. So as far as I can tell, it's actually 3 at this point, because there's the eldest son of Rhaegar and Elia Martell. Elia, is that right?
Yeah.
Or Laria?
Elia? It's Elia, yeah.
Elia, yeah. There's so many similar names. Yeah. Sometimes I just can't. Their eldest son was Aegon, and he was killed. All their children were killed except for Viserys and Daenerys. But then in the books, Varys and Illyrio produce another Aegon, but he's the fake Aegon. He's not a real Targaryen. He's like a Connington or something. Cousins, like related to the Targaryens, but not in the nobility. So he's like an imposter king, basically. He's like Plan B or Plan C. I don't know. He's one of their moving pieces. But then I guess Jon is now also Aegon because apparently Lyanna wanted to name her son after Rhaegar's older child or something. I don't really get that. That's what kind of bothers me.
Dead at this point, right?
Well, maybe they'd already died.
Wait, is the book Aegon fake? Was that established?
Like, it's deeply. There's a lot of evidence that that's not a real Targaryen, but don't ask me to provide it to you right now.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was made because someone said that on Twitter today, and I was like, really? I was like, I don't remember that. But
yeah, I think there's a lot of. Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of stuff to back that up. That he's sort of just like their. I mean, I think that like these guys have had a lot of different like little plots going to try to get their own people back on the throne, basically.
Right.
Whether that's
so Jon would
Viserys
be like real Aegon, sort of.
Well, he would be the legit heir.
And then the third point. Aegon really did die, and then they're pretending this other guy is not dead Aegon. Okay.
Yeah, basically.
It's a little convoluted, but okay.
It's a little, yeah, and I do
at least. Like the show didn't really kind of wade into that. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing.
Well, it's with the books just leaving us hanging for so long. I can't make a real judgment on that fake Aegon, that whole plot.
That's what I was wondering, is like, would Jon even be revealed as Aegon Targaryen in the books, or would he be like somewhat like Rhaegon Targaryen or something, different?
Yeah. Oh, those Targaryen names. Yeah, I don't know.
Here, but
I mean, there is this idea that this is something I need to brush up on, but I guess that Rhaegar was obsessed with the prophecy of the prince who was promised, and that he believed his name would be Aegon, so he was naming his sons Aegon to make that prophecy come true.
All his sons Aegon. One of them, it'll stick.
Yeah, one of them. We just need to have lots and lots of sons. Name them all Aegon. Yeah. It's bound to work out. I would say to some degree, things like prophecy and like magical bloodlines and stuff are the weakest link in this whole story. I mean, it's kind of cool at first when, to have like Jon not be really Ned's bastard and everything, but to have like a prince who is promised is frankly just kind of a little bit disappointing in a way.
The show's like really kind of scaled back on the whole prophecy. I mean, they mentioned it at the very beginning of the seasons, but in this whole reveal process, they didn't talk about Jon being the prince that was promised or whatever. Like, I don't know. I can't tell like how deep they're going to go into that prophecy or how much it matters at this point, but
they do mention quite explicitly that he's the heir to the Iron Throne.
They do say yes.
Probably good that they did that. But.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think a lot of people would have figured that out. I can't tell if you're being sarcastic.
No, I'm not being sarcastic. I do think it's good that they spelled it out clearly. I really do, because I think that there's been so much. It's been so vague in the show.
I don't think a lot of people know at this point. Remember who Ares is and Rhaegar is and how they're all related to each other. So I think they
now a lot of people think it's Viserys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was handled pretty well overall. I am curious to see how it plays out with Jon and Dany or however you say it.
Yeah,
I always say Dany. I just like Dany better because Dany sounds like a boy's name to me. Danny boy. Danny boy. That whole thing. But I just say
Dany because spelling out Daenerys, I always spell it wrong half the time. So I just say Dany.
Yeah. I have actually gotten good at it because I have like a little trick on how to spell it in my head now.
Yeah.
I say it Dane Eris.
Okay.
And then I remember where to put like the E and stuff.
Yeah, I've got good at that. I can do Targaryen right the first time. That one's easier.
It's only taken 7 years.
Yeah, I've gotten pretty good at spelling most of those names now. The rest of them aren't like too hard.
I'm still mad they didn't show Ghost at all this season.
I don't get it. It's like you have the budget to show him for like 2 seconds. Just have him walking around Winterfell or have Arya like playing with him in the snow or something for 2 seconds. Like it is very weird that he's just completely gone. When he wasn't like a huge part of the show, but he's one of the only he's one of 2 direwolves left. It's kind of key.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, and I think that the show is making a mistake to not like emphasize the importance of the direwolves. I mean, this is how the whole story started, was with direwolves. Yeah. Jon finds those wolves and they matter. Like they're a big part of who the Starks are and who these characters are, and they just sort of drop the ball with that so badly.
I mean, most of them are dead, to be fair, and one of them ran away. But yeah, I don't really get why they haven't shown Ghost for, 2 seasons? That is odd. But
they could have had like Bran warging into Ghost even.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I don't know, like that'd have been kind of neat to show him like going in his eyes, like watching Littlefinger or something. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me because they clearly do not have very many budget limitations at this point. I mean,
clearly,
HBO will just let them do whatever they want. So I don't get why they can't have like a 2-minute scene with Ghost once a season. But I don't know.
I mean,
it's one of the casualties of the hurried storyline.
Yeah, I think you were right in your post that you wrote about the biggest sin of the series.
Just being way too fast.
Yeah.
And now that we've come to the end, I don't think this 6 episode thing was a good idea. Like, yeah, some of them are longer than normal and whatever, but it feels rushed, and it didn't have to feel this rushed. Even as we're kind of getting to the end here, it was just too fast. And while the finale, everything kind of came together and it was okay. But 3-4 episodes this season, there was these moments where it just felt way too rushed for one reason or another, whether it was like teleporting travel time or the Arya Sansa plotline or Jon and Daenerys, like everything just felt rushed.
Yeah, and I think that leads to lots of little fumbles in the, like Jaime and Bronn basically swimming several hundred meters.
You love your
armor.
Distances.
Well, I mean, look at it. Like they emerged from the other side of this giant river or whatever it was. The battle was obviously over at this point. Like, they must have been swimming for a while. Have you ever tried to swim in full plate mail with a gold
They could have come up for air, periodically and then gone back.
You can't swim in armor at all, period. You just can't do it. You sink like a stone. They would have had to rip it off. Like, at least they could have shown the armor ripped off. This is what I mean. Like,
these are things I'm slightly more willing to forgive than you. But
well, see, I value realism because that's what sort of this whole, a lot of people say, well, it's just a fantasy with dragons. No, but it's not. Martin's books are built on a realistic, plausible world.
Rules. Yeah.
They need, yes, there needs to be rules, and the rushed nature of this season has sort of diminished that, I think, in a big way. And it's not just like the fast traveling and stuff, or it's that there's literally like little things that just annoy the crap out of me, like Benjen showing up out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was just bad for many reasons.
Yeah, I mean, in a less rushed season, we might have gotten something like Benjen following the Army of the Dead, or Bran like showing up and like whispering in Benjen's ear, or something cool like that, to get him there. I don't know. Yeah. Just there's so many little symptoms of a rushed season, and it's not like they had to do maybe a full 10 either. It's just, I don't know. It definitely feels like they could have had a better story. Just a better story all around.
Yeah, and like heading into a new season with 6 episodes after how rushed this one was, and like how much more big stuff still needs to come. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know. But I am somewhat concerned in that aspect of it. Even if, I don't know. Supposedly, there's a rumor all the episodes will be like 80 minutes, but yeah.
Well, that would be good. That would be a good start
for sure.
Honestly, like I've felt this way about the show in the past, even when we were getting 10 episodes and they were all an hour long. I've definitely felt at times like they could have been even longer episodes, and a lot of times I'm saying, no, these shows need fewer episodes, like Arrow or Walking Dead would be better with fewer episodes. But, like there's just so much stuff in Game of Thrones to cover, so much ground.
I remember back in like season 1 and 2, Martin was like, I think he wanted 12 or 13 because they kept having to cut stuff. And then they're like, no, 10 is all we can do. And now they're cutting it even further. So, and I mean,
did you hear Martin's not watching the show anymore?
I heard he corrected that and he said that he was, but
oh, well, I believe the first thing he said, not the second.
If I were him, I would almost not watch it just so I could not be too influenced by it. But I mean, he has to know what's happening. I assume they run everything by him, so
I don't know why. I mean, they don't have to run anything by him.
They don't have to, but I feel like they probably do. I don't know. Maybe not, but I kind of assume they do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever.
I think it would be really, really hard.
Should be doing writing 24/7.
Did you ever see Misery?
Yes. A long time ago, but yeah, I know what you're referencing.
Yeah, we need that to happen, minus the whole like leg breaking and stuff. But somebody just needs to take him to a cabin in the woods and just be like, right,
yep,
right, damn you, right. I feel it more than ever now. I feel like after this season. And I wasn't feeling that way after season 6. After season 6, and this is kind of gets to that gut feeling, right? After season 6, I felt like, okay, I'm feeling good about the show. At least we're going to get a satisfactory conclusion to this story, even if we don't get it from Martin. But after the end of season 7, I'm feeling the opposite. I'm feeling like, oh my God, I really want Martin to finish the books, because I don't feel like this is as going where I thought it would go. Just in terms of quality, in terms of story, etc.
The tone feels a lot different now. Like, I don't want to. I kind of hate this term, but like, it does feel a lot more fan servicey. Like the things you kind of expect and want to happen all are happening. Like the Arya's revenge on the Freys, and this setup of Littlefinger getting his just desserts, and the Jon and Dany romance falling into place, and it just it. Like maybe this is kind of what Martin was setting up. Like all this tragic stuff happens, and then things kind of start going right in a lot of ways, like for the Starks and the good guys. But it definitely feels like a way different show now, and I really have to feel like that's the books kind of being left behind, and then them making their own decisions, and then having to build future content on their own decisions, not the books. Like before, they were at least making their initial decisions on stuff that happened in the books. But now we're so far past the books, the butterfly effect is like, it's just a totally kind of different, series now, which is okay to a certain extent, but it feels a little weird. And I felt that more this season than I did last season.
Yeah, I have to question how much of this, I mean, obviously there are some things that are not happening the way they will in the books, simply because, Sansa did not marry Ramsay in the books.
Right.
So basically all that stuff in Winterfell could be vastly different.
My guess is this whole Winterfell thing doesn't happen. Some stuff will. I think the Ice Dragon will happen. I think Jon being a legitimate Targaryen will happen. I don't think the Arya assassinating Frey will happen. I don't know. You can just kind of tell what feels like a book plot point that has been built up for the duration of the series, and then what is something that the show just decided to do because it was cool and convenient and would make people happy.
And then you also have to wonder what, in a way, the show is almost now a petri dish for Martin. He can see how these things kind of play out, and he can question whether it's exactly, when you're writing a book, it's not like, even if you have things planned. Well, I haven't written a book. You have, but I haven't. But I imagine, you have some ideas about where you want to go with it. But along the way, things change based on what you write, based on how the characters work out, based on just not everything is ever going to be fully planned out. And I mean, who knows how Martin's story will change, from the way he conceived it and told them about his bullet points, basically, and how it ends up, when he finally actually publishes the books.
My hunch is it'll be dramatically different. I mean, maybe it'll have some of the same strokes, but just based on how much has changed and how off some of these decisions have felt and very un-Martin-like, I'd say that it's probably going to be pretty significantly different.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, things probably do have to get better for the Starks and stuff. You can't just have things get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. A good story has moments of justice, Joffrey dying, and ultimately I think Ramsay will get killed in some fashion. There's going to be in the books still good things happening. It's just that here it's all too neat and tidy.
Even when good things happened in the books, like Tyrion killing his father or Joffrey getting poisoned, that still wasn't this exact cosmic justice moment the way these other kind of revenge kills have been. The Tyrion thing just shattered his whole family and made him this outcast, and it was just pretty much terrible for everybody involved, even though Tywin deserved to die. And Joffrey was killed by Olenna and Littlefinger, not Sansa. I feel if the show wrote that, they would have had Sansa be the one to kill him and be justice for being abused and for my father, which is what the Arya kind of kill and the Littlefinger kill felt like. I don't know. It's just the way those are handled now feels a lot more neat and tidy than they were back when the books were the source material.
And even at times there's little things about the show, some things are kind of fan servicey, like you're saying, but then there's also kind of things that are just so like head scratching. Like when Cersei said that she had the Iron Bank and so she hired the Golden Company and it was 20,000 mercenaries. How is that even a victory for her? 20,000 is not that many when you consider how big other armies are.
Yeah, and it's not she still really has anything to answer the Dothraki and dragons in the field. I mean,
unsullied and just what is that even? That's hardly it's just weird. If she was I have hired 200,000, I don't know. There's just it's kind of all the reason I worry about times and distances and numbers is because that's how you build coherency and plausibility, and it's how you stitch it all together, and it's just so that's why I feel like I'm just more excited about Martin's next book than I've been in a long time, because I now truly feel like not only is this a different story, but one that has changed into a different kind of story also. So yeah, but I still liked the finale. No, I still enjoyed it. I mean, this is the thing about Game of Thrones, even this season. There's lots of things that we gripe about, but it's still a fun show. I mean, it's still the coolest fantasy show that I've ever seen.
It is one of the just coolest TV experiences, I think, in kind of, or just even media experiences in history. I honestly, because I've never seen a show get this many people talking about it so consistently from all different walks of life. The Walking Dead doesn't do this. You don't really see movies do this or video games do this. Everybody knows everything about this wacky fantasy show, and it is not to be cliche, but it's kind of magical, like the way that this is sort of swept the entire world in a way I have never seen with kind of another program. Like other stuff's popular, sure, and like, oh, you know, this show or that show gets X million viewers, but it's like this feels like we're kind of living through like the next Star Wars. Like it's not, you know, the same genre obviously, but it's like that level of like pop culture influence.
Definitely. Yeah, it's really it's a phenomenon. It's really amazing, and that's why another reason why it's so sad that we have such shortened seasons, because I feel like there is enough room just for this community that's grown up around this show to really explore it more. And I do look forward to spin-offs. Yeah,
forever.
They may not
do so. I don't think we'll be short on Thrones content for foreseeable future.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then there's the potentially these games. You wrote about the Bethesda ad on Target or whatever, not ad, but like placeholder.
It's like hardly confirmation, but there have been a lot of rumblings about Bethesda making a Game of Thrones game for a while now.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised to see that become a reality, and that would be really cool. I have no idea when it would be set or like how it would interact with the show or the books, but if anyone's going to do it, it should be Bethesda.
Totally. Although I hope they do some things differently from their past games, like facial animation and voice acting. And I don't want to be I just don't want to have to pick up all those books all the time.
It's too many books. Yeah.
Too many books. Too many little things.
My favorite theory is that people are like, it's just going to be a Skyrim like reskin. It's just another way to stealth re-release Skyrim for like the 80th time.
With the same like voice actors and like
exactly
like fake Norse accents and stuff.
Yeah, I do think it is kind of genius if they did take it on, because I could have imagined someone else making it a direct competitor to Elder Scrolls, but if they just do it, then they can be like, oh, Elder Scrolls isn't coming until 2021, and oh, this Game of Thrones game will be out next year, and then they won't have to be in competition with each other.
Yeah, it really does make sense. I totally agree. I'd be very happy because there hasn't been a good Game of Thrones game.
No, there hasn't
at all.
There was some like horrible like RPG attempt. I don't even know who made that, but it was so bad that like no one even knew it existed. And then Telltale tried to do their thing, and that did not go well. And I think there's like a Game of Thrones mobile. I think the best Game of Thrones game is the whatever mod for the RTS, like Crusader Kings. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
that's probably the best Game of Thrones game so far.
Yeah, it's just such a shame because it's really a perfect IP for something really cool. So hopefully they do it justice. I've also heard that From Software might be working on a open world Game of Thrones game, so that would be interesting. Yeah, I mean that's not really their bag, but it could be very interesting. It's kind of odd for a Japanese developer to put together a Game of Thrones game just because of the cultural divide there. But I mean, hey, it could be pretty cool. The combat would be better than whatever Bethesda puts together. Though I hope that Bethesda in any of their future games, whether it's Skyrim or Game of Thrones, steals from Arcane's Dishonored stuff, because just even the swordplay in Dishonored it is miles better than Skyrim
for sure.
Predictions for season 8.
No one is on the Iron Throne. The concept of the Iron Throne ceases to exist. Jaime kills Cersei. Daenerys and Jon have a kid and just get over the whole aunt nephew thing. Jorah dies. I don't know. I'm just listing things off the top of my head.
I want the final scene to be like Jon and Daenerys' kid, like when he's like 8 years old, and he's like just like sitting there burning like bugs or something, and like
he's crazy,
obviously super evil and crazy, and the cycle continues.
Yeah,
maybe a dragon will melt the Iron Throne. Ooh. Or maybe like Cersei spills some wildfire on herself while she's sitting on it, or something. I don't know.
Good predictions.
And the Night King, what do you think about him?
Bran's the Night King. No, he's not.
Their noses are super similar,
okay,
though.
I'll give you that, but like I don't buy that. I don't think there's going to be some like super secret who the Night King really is plotline. In 6 episodes, I don't think they have time to make that work because that's not been set up at all on the show. Like, unless he's Azor Ahai, like, I don't see any other surprise reveal that would make sense. But,
well, I feel like it has to be more than just a big bad villain versus the good guys, but maybe that's
kind of what the show's turned into, though. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. We haven't really gotten any crazy betrayal twists and turns like we have, a couple seasons ago. So the show has turned a lot more into kind of straight high fantasy, for better or worse.
Do you know what's interestingly enough, when I think back to when I first read the books, I mean, I know they mentioned the Night King in there, but I barely thought about him.
They almost don't mention him at all. I think it's like maybe a passing reference to him.
Yeah, but there's a little passing reference to him and to the Great Other, like the evil god that's the counter.
Well, they've really built up the whole like 2 forces of good and evil god kind of concept in the books, whereas that really hasn't been mentioned on the show. It's like the god of cold and death versus, I guess, the Lord of Light, even though the Lord of Light is also kind of evil. I don't know.
Yeah, which ultimately could play out to be sort of a Brandon Sanderson like balance thing. Did you read Mistborn?
No, but I read The Way of Kings.
The first 2 books, or
whatever.
Those ones. Oh my god, I love them so much.
Yeah, they're really good. I can get into Mistborn, but I like the other ones a lot.
Read it again. Try it again.
Yeah,
I think you should give it another try.
Talking about like burning tin and copper. I'm like, well, I can't follow this.
It's just the magic.
The magic system was so complicated. I couldn't process it. But maybe I'm just an idiot.
You just got to give it another chance because it's actually not as complicated as you think.
I know it's probably not, but yeah.
Sanderson always has very clear. He has he has his rules of magic and stuff, which are really quite fun to read, and he has very clear and sense and explicit.
I liked the magic system in the other books. That one made more sense to me, but yeah, this one not as much.
Yeah. Oh my God, The Way of Kings. The 3rd one comes out in a little bit. I think later this year, which is exciting.
Oh, is
my God, 10 books? 10 books?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we're going to be reading that forever.
I'll believe that when it happens, but
well, at least Sanderson
they're turning
writes
that into a show.
Are they?
I mean, someone bought the rights to it, so yeah, eventually.
Oh, well,
that'll be something.
What? And they're turning the Wheel of Time into a show, also.
That was another one I couldn't. I got 3/4 of the way through the first book. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a super fantasy person, but
yeah, I just finished the first book actually and started the second one, so it's taken me a long time to get around to that too.
Yeah.
My problem is that everyone's like, God, the 7th through the 11th books really suck. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to read 6 books and then there's next 5 are terrible. I don't know if I want to keep reading this series.
It's a big investment. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, well,
all right.
Sad. Last Game of Thrones podcast for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So I guess people tune in to we'll be talking about actual video games again.
Video games and then some Walking Dead. And
we'll just be. I have a feeling The Walking Dead will be even more complaint filled than our Game of Thrones ones have been.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna be.
If that's your bag. We're here for you.
I had someone on Twitter tell me that he's always liked my Game of Thrones reviews, but now I'm a trash reviewer because I complained about fast travel. So I am obviously the villain here, having complained about a pretty legitimate critique this year. And I even stopped complaining about it. I was like, I'm not going to complain about it anymore because it's just going to keep happening. So,
yeah.
But anyways, thanks to everyone for listening. This was an extra super long podcast because, it was the season finale. So we'll see you next week.